Hi, I'm Irene Pasternack, teaching Feldenkrais with Northwest Parkinson's. It's good to see you all today. I want to keep going on our theme with arms and shoulders. And this lesson also works with posture and balance and freedom in walking. It's a lovely lesson that can be done either lying down or sitting. So I know some of you really enjoy the lying down ones. Feel free to lie down on the floor, but it's also equally doable in sitting. So just take a moment to get comfortable. Looks like. And if you're going to do it sitting, you want to be sitting on the front of your chair with your knees wide, and you need some space on both sides of you where you can reach out to the side without bumping into anything. And we'll mostly be doing one side and then the other, so you might have to slide your chair a little left and right to have the space. If you've decided to do this lying down and you can change your screen so I can see you, I'd appreciate that. Otherwise, I will forget to give those instructions. All right, and now just for a moment, reach down as if you wanted to scratch your ankle. And just see how easy or hard would that be today to reach down and scratch your ankle. And try it with your other hand. See why you hope you only have one itchy ankle, that the other one isn't. And then come back up to sitting, or if you're lying, and move your hands around just to feel, does one hand feel less tense than the other? Which hand feels more mobile? And where in your hands do you sense that? Is there a particular joint that is your measurement joint? Yes. I know I have one of those, gnarled fingers that curve sideways with arthritis, and that's usually the first thing I notice when I squeeze or wiggle my hands around, but just notice what you notice. Okay. And then if you are sitting, take one arm and put it straight. Well, let's put both arms in front of us. We'll start with both arms in front. And if you're lying, palms together, elbows straight, hands up in the air. So your palms are touching. And take one arm out to the side. And see how far does it go comfortably back. Okay, and come back. And do it again. And remember when we've sensed, like you can feel it's easy, it's easy, it's easy. And then it starts like, I could go further if I had to, but it's work. Stay in the range of it's just easy before it feels thick, before it feels liquid. So if you're on your back, one hand stays up to the sky and the other hand goes toward behind you. All right, we're going to work with just that hand for a little bit. So rest your arms in between doing things. You don't need to hold it out there. Then put both hands out in front of you. And for those of you who are on your side, on your back, roll onto one side. So you'll need some support under your head if you're on the floor. If you're on the floor, you have both hands in front of you on the floor, palm together. If you're sitting, you have both hands straight in front. And begin to take whichever hand you're working with first, straight out to the side. So if you're on the ground, it comes up in the air toward behind you. And if you're sitting, and notice, what are you doing with your head and your eyes? Are you staring at the screen to see, am I doing it right? Okay. let's have your head and eyes watch your hand as you go. You could take the other arm and just rest it. So you're just moving the one arm out to the side, turning your head and your eyes to watch it as it goes. And then when you bring the arm back, your head and your eyes come back to the middle. And you could make this a pleasant, like you're offering something out to that side. And then do what you can to make this as pleasant a motion, and then rest. Okay, now leave your head pointed at the screen or looking straight. So if you're on the ground, looking straight ahead of you, and take your arm out to the side, but turn your eyeballs to follow your hand, and only go so far that with your head straight, your eyeballs can follow your hand. Kind of a strange little thing, a little contortion in the face in order to do that. Okay, good. And now take your hand out and see if it's feeling a little bit more free to go out toward. Okay. Rest for a moment. And if you're on your back, roll over to the other side. If you're on the ground, if you're sitting, we're going to work with the other arm. First, just see how far this arm goes back. And where are the breaks? Like, what is it inside you that says, I don't want to go further? Okay. And do it a few times. Don't do it and hold it. Do it multiple times. Yeah. And now take your head and your eyes and go back with the arm. And feel when you take your head and your eyes with it, your sternum probably turns a little bit. And you might feel something in your sit bones. You might feel one sit bone going forward, one sit bone going backwards, or one knee going forward and back. Do it many times, because each time you can pay attention to something else. What does your belly button do when you look at your hand going? And rest for a moment. And then leave your head looking straight ahead, and just your eyeballs follow your arm. You get to see how big your peripheral vision is. Like, where can you still see that arm with your peripheral vision? Do it many times. And rest for a moment. And then take the arm back however you want to and see if it's moving a little easier. If you can find that pleasant, like you were, I don't know, pulling open a curtain to see a gorgeous sunny day with no smoke. Imagine that movement of, oh my gosh, I can see into the next town. I can see to the end of my yard instead of seeing white. Okay. And rest. All right. So now if you're lying on your side, Rich, take the roller out from under your knees for this, for when you're on your side, because it'll get in the way. So put your two knees together if you're sitting, and slide one knee forward and one knee backward. So in lying, your knee will slide on the bottom leg, and in sitting, for your knee, one knee to come forward and one knee to go backward. Feel how it's your sit bones that are actually doing the movement, and the knee comes along for the ride. So your feet stay still, or at least in the same place, but your knees are sliding. Is that making sense? I can't see that part of people. This will be easier if you're sitting way forward in your chair. And let's everybody who's sitting, stand up for a moment. If you're lying, stay lying. But if you're sitting, turn your hips one way and then turn them the other way. Okay? And then come and sit down. And it's really just that motion of turning your hips when you're in the chair that pushes one knee forward and pulls one knee backward. Okay. Now put your feet a little bit wider if you're sitting. If you're lying, they're just resting on each other, that your knees are resting. And begin to slide your heel outward. Your heel and the whole foot goes with the heel. Your knee can stay where it is, but one foot slides out a little bit. And as you do that, take the same side hand and slide it down toward the ground a little bit. So if you're lying down, you're lifting your foot up, but leaving your knee still. Yeah. But there's something about sliding the hand down, of tilting the shoulders and your head, that makes it easier for the knee to, or for the foot to go out. And the shoulder doesn't need to come forward. It can just go sort of a straight up and down. Okay. And then try keeping your upper body really still and taking your foot out to the side, and feel how it's heavier. It doesn't go as easily. And then tilt your head, slide your shoulder down, and then the foot can slide way further out to the side. Pause for a moment. Now, leaving your feet where they are, just move your knee on this side to the side. So if you're on the ground, you keep your ankles together and just lift your knee. When you lift your knee on the ground, your top hip rolls backward a little. And if you're sitting, to take your knee out and not your foot out, try turning your whole body toward the knee that's going out. See if that makes it feel a little freer to widen the knee. And your foot is going to kind of roll toward its outside edge as you do the knee. On the ground, you're lifting one knee off the other. And now we're going to begin to alternate those two. So you slide your foot in and your knee goes out, and then you slide your knee in and your foot goes out. So your foot is kind of pivoting on a point in the mid-thigh, in the mid-calf. So the knee goes out as the foot slides in, the knee goes out, and if you're on the ground, you lift your knee, and before your knee comes down, you lift your foot. So bring the knee down and the foot up at the same time. But if you're sitting, it's your knee and your foot are going side to side. And you might find that in order to do this back and forth in sitting, that you need to have your ribs going like this and like this. So side bending in the ribs. All right. So now we're going to combine what we have done. So we were sliding our knees forward and back. Go ahead and remind yourself of that motion of moving your hips and your sit bones so that your knees, one goes forward, one goes back. And you've got this foot that can go, your foot and your knee that can go, it's like you're stepping out with your foot, stepping in with your foot, and the knee goes the opposite of the foot. One direction of that is going to be easier with your hip forward, and one direction of that's going to be easier with your hip backward. See if you can find which goes with which. So on the ground, you're alternating your knee, lifting your knee and your foot. And in one of those, you're going to roll your pelvis backward. And in one of them, you're going to roll your pelvis forward. See which movement is it better to do your knee or your foot, depending on which direction your hip is going. And if you're not sure you found the good way, try and do it the opposite way. Everybody try and do it the hard way. Which is probably, if you're sitting and you take your hip back and you put your foot out, that's going to be harder. And then you bring the hip forward and bring your knee out. That's probably going to be the harder, but this making sense? It's kind of a strange thing to look for the easier or harder way to combine these motions. All right, rest for a moment. And on the side that you've been working with that leg, put that arm straight in front of you. And bring your arm toward behind you. And feel if by letting your knee move out a little bit, you can bring the arm further back behind you. That there's a connection with what you do with your knee and your foot, and you're sliding your hips forward and backward. That makes it so that the arm might be able to, especially if you turn your head and look at it, you might be able to reach the back corner of the room. It's so strange to realize that the freedom in our shoulder and our arms has to do with what we do with our feet and our knees and our pelvis. But the more that is connected, the more comfortable the arm will be. And then just notice now, if you're on your back, on the floor, lie on your back. In sitting, close your eyes, let your arms hang, and feel if there's a different sense of length, one arm from the other. A different sense of how your sit bone connects with your chair. If you're lying, the weight left and right might feel different, the width. There might be some differences in how your face feels. And the shoulder might feel like the distance, if you took a thread between your ear and your shoulder, it might be longer on the side we've been working on. Okay. Let's play a little on the other side. So if you're lying on the floor, roll to the other side you were on, than the one you were on. And begin to slide your foot away from your other foot on the floor. And this is the one that if you tilt your head and your shoulders out to the side as your foot slides out to the side, it's going to be easier to slide your foot further out. So if you get that real tilt in the body, all your weight goes to the other sit bone, then it can be a little bigger movement. If you're on your side, you're lifting your foot away from your other foot, leaving your knees touching. You might even find that the other arm, the one that you had worked with before, if you lift that up in the air, you'll find it even easier to slide your foot out to the side. So it's I'm raising my right hand, sliding my left hand, but whichever side you are, just that they're opposite. Okay, rest for a moment. And begin to open your knee on this side. So if you're on the ground, keep your ankles together and lift your knee. If you're sitting, you're just taking that second side knee and going away from the other knee. It makes your foot roll onto its outside edge. And then we're going to do the combo where the knee and the foot move. So your foot slides in toward the other foot as the other knee gets wider, as that knee gets wider. And then your foot slides away and your knee goes toward your other knee. So if you're on the ground, you lift your knee, and then as the knee is coming down, you lift your foot. But it's just this big scoop, and the more you can shift your weight from sit bone to sit bone, the more graceful this will feel in your foot. It's like all your weight goes to the sit bone that's in the opposite direction that your foot is. So on the ground, you're lifting your knee, and then as your knee comes down, you lift your foot, and as your foot comes down, you lift your knee. Okay, rest for a moment. And then slide your knees forward and back again. So in sitting, that's turning your hips. So your sit bones move in your chair. If you're on your back, roll your hip backward and forward on the floor so that your knees slide on each other. And then you're going to discover on this side, when your leg is going, you're doing the alternate, your knee in, toe out, or foot out. Which direction is it better to have that knee a little forward, and which direction is it better to pull the knee a little backward? Just going to stand up for a moment and just try this in standing. Yeah, it's not so clear in standing, so. And if you can find the easy way, which is probably sliding the hip forward as your knee goes out and sliding the hip backward as your knee comes in. There's a belly thing that has to go on there where you push your belly out, you pull your belly in, helps. Try doing it the hard way. And then go back to the easy way. And rest for a moment. Take that second arm straight in front of you. Go toward behind you, letting the hip slide back, letting the knee open, and see how far back that hand can go. So you take your arm back toward behind you, but you take your hip with it, and the knee gets wider. Try for a moment taking the hand, your ankle out, your foot out, and your arm back, and you feel how you get stuck. But if you take your arm back and the knee gets wider and the hip goes back, it's unstuck. See if you can get in your own way and then get out of your way. So on the ground, if you roll your hip forward, see what your arm can do. And if you roll your hip backwards, see what your arm can do. All right, rest for a sec. And let's go back to the other side. Oh, first notice if you're feeling a little more symmetric, because we're at one of those symmetric moments. And then put your other arm straight out to the side and bend your hand, bend at your wrist about 90 degrees, and begin to rotate your arm around itself. So this lesson was first developed on your side, So Rich, can we use you as a demo for a sec? Roll onto your side. And so you'll be using your top arm when you're on your side. Oh, never mind. We're not going to be able to see your hand because it's cut off. But when you're on your side, here, I'll do it by bending over. And my hand is going back and forth. It's like a periscope looking in different directions. So that's the image that, like, I have eyes on the tips of my fingers and they're going in different directions. So when your arm is out to the side, your periscope, you're looking in a circle around yourself. And just explore how far that arm can go around in that periscope. If you can, bend your wrist so it's not, your fingers are not in line with your arm. Okay, and rest for a moment. Take that same arm straight out. And this time, with the fingers straight, reach as if you wanted to reach something on the wall over there. And feel for when your shoulder blade comes with your arm. You could keep your shoulder blade tight to your spine and reach. Try that. If you hold your shoulder blade to your spine and reach. So Rich, this would be reaching straight up toward the ceiling if you're on the ground. Yeah. But if you loosen your shoulder blade, it can come with you. Your chest can come with the arm a little bit. Your weight will change on your sit bones probably as you reach. Okay. So we're going to combine that with the periscope. So if you reach with your arm, is it easier to roll your fingertips up or to roll your fingertips down? And when you pull your arm back, which way is it easier to turn your hand? So you're looking to combine them so you reach the arm out and you turn the hand the easy way, and you bring the arm back and turn it the other way. So that there should be a little weight shift. You should see, if you're looking at yourself in Zoom, your shoulders going a little left and right. Rest for a moment. And then see if you can do it the hard way. So going the opposite of what feels natural. And then rest. And one more time, try and do it the easy way, where it lengthens as it rotates in one direction and it pulls in as it rotates the other way. Okay, rest for a moment. Put your hand back out there to the side, same hand, and turn your head to look at it. And when you do the periscope, which way does your head want to turn? One way will make your head want to look at the hand, and one way it's nicer to look at the front. And then reverse it. And then go again to the way that feels easier. And then rest your arm. This could be like work. So now we've got the lengthening the arm, we've got the direction of the periscope, and we have what the head does. And see if you can find a combination of the three that feels nice, of like you lengthen your arm as you turn the periscope one way and you look at it, and then you look away as you go the other way. You might find that it's even if you look over your other shoulder, there's a way that this all connects to itself. All right, and just let your arms dangle by your sides. And see if there's a difference in the length of the arms, the freedom in one shoulder. Maybe if close your eyes, take a breath in, and see if the air goes into one side of you more than the other. Then we're going to shift to the other side. So if you're on the ground, roll to your other side. If you're sitting up, bring the arm out to the side. And let's first start with the lengthening and pulling the arm back. It's like if somebody pulled your arm over there, feel how your whole chest can flow along with your arm. And then you can use your chest and your weight on your sit bones. It's like if somebody pulled you far enough, your weight would all go onto the same sit bone. And then bringing the other sit bone down to the ground brings the arm back in. If you're on the ground, your arm is straight up toward the ceiling as you're doing this exploration. So you're lifting up toward the ceiling and back on the ground, okay? Now, rest the arm for a sec. Put the arm up with the periscope so that your wrist is bent at 90 degrees. And begin turning that periscope and seeing what part of the room can it see. And then begin to let your head look when it feels good to look and look away when it feels good to look away. And then begin to add in when does it feel good to reach and when does it feel good to pull your arm back toward yourself. Our periscopes work differently than machines because the machine just has a joint that swivels in all directions, but we have to get the rest of ourselves involved a little bit. And then see if you can find a hard way to do it on this side of pulling your arm in instead of letting it go out. And then find the easy way again. The easy way that's connected to your sit bones, your head and your eyes, your arm pulling in and out of your body. And then I'm curious, how has this impacted if you put your hand to the front and then bring it around toward behind you? See if there's even a little bit more freedom in that motion. This is going to make it easier to put on a coat. That the more it's like your whole sternum swings around. And try it with the other arm, bringing it around yourself. So if your right arm is going back, bring your left shoulder forward. And if your left arm's going back, bring your right shoulder forward. Okay, rest for a moment. Bring your hands up so that you have your fists in front of you looking down on them, and then bring your elbows back. And take your arms and go across yourself, letting the shoulder go back. So swing the shoulder, one shoulder back, one shoulder forward. Yeah. If you want to walk fast, if you do this with your shoulders, go ahead and stand up for a moment. Everybody stand up, even if you're on the floor. Put your fingers that palm up way, take your elbows back, and swing right across your chest. Let your arms cross your chest, like you're swinging them up to your opposite shoulder. And feel how that makes your hips begin to rotate, how one hip comes forward and the other hip comes forward. Yeah, you can do this in your chair. Try and let your sit bones slide in the chair. And when you're walking, as you come forward and your hip comes forward, it can take a bigger step. Now, if your arms and your torso are still, it's very hard for your legs to take a big step. But getting this motion easy through, try and stay as close to your body as you can with your arms. It's like behind you, your elbows wrap around you, and in front of you, your elbows wrap around. And begin to take your attention to the back one. So the back one is jabbing somebody that's behind you at an angle. Yeah. And then have a seat. So if you're about to go out for a walk and you want to do the best thing you can do for your balance before you go for your walk, bend your elbows like this and do a little bit of this swinging back and forth. And it kind of sets you up for the freedom in your hips and legs to move. Okay. Let's play with a couple more variations that make these movements easier. So interlace your hands and put them on top of your head. Put all your weight on your left sit bone and lift up with your left elbow. So while your weight's on your left sit bone, lift your left elbow up. And try and do this a few times. So come back to the middle. The weight goes over to the left sit bone, and then you lift. And what you'll feel is the ribs on the right side compressing and the ribs on the left side expanding. So you take your weight to your left sit bone, lift your left elbow, and it's like somebody was pulling it up that way, and the right one ends up tilting down toward the ground. Good. Let that go. Interlace your fingers again. Notice which thumb is on top. Switch them so the other thumb's on top. Put them on top of your head. Put your weight on your left sit bone again. Lift your left elbow, drop your right elbow. So your right sit bone actually can lift off the chair a little bit. All the weight's on the left. You really have to move your belly way over to the left in order to do this. So it's somebody's lifting up on your left arm and your right ribs are squeezing a little bit. And rest. And now see which arm was more impacted by that. As you take your arm back, you feel the ribs on one side respond a little bit more. Okay, let's interlace our fingers again on top of our head. Put all the weight on the right sit bone. And then lift the right elbow. So the right elbow, it's like somebody was pulling up that way. You'll feel a stretchy feeling in your armpit. Your right ribs press to the right a little bit more. Come back to neutral. Do it again. Your left hip lifts up off the chair a little bit as the right elbow goes up and the left one goes down. Try and have your hands be light on your head, not pushing down too hard. Okay. And then rest. Interlace your hands. Notice which thumb's on top. Switch them. Up on the head. Put all your weight right. Lift up with the right elbow again. Lift the left sit bone up. So you're trying to shape your spine into a letter C, moving your waist to the right as your left hip lifts up and your left elbow goes down. Good, let that go. Take your arm, one arm behind you again. See if you let your head and your eyes look behind. So it's as if you're wanting to reach the door or the picture or whatever's on the wall behind you. Feel how your sit bones slide in your chair. One goes back, one knee opens up a little bit. Okay, let's see if we can do one more thing that makes this a little easier. So find your sternum and interlace your fingers between the ribs. So you'll feel a bump where each rib comes in, and then there's a little divot in between the ribs. The sternum's usually like 1 inch to 2 inches wide, depending on how big a person you are. That making sense? And then pull your sternum to one side. It's like your fingers are trying to pull, and when your sternum moves around to this side, it means the ribs are rotating around yourself. So you can imagine by moving the sternum that way, that the ribs in the front have to travel that way, and the ribs in the back travel the other way as you pull your sternum. And then take the arm behind yourself and see if it's gotten a little easier to go toward the back. And then let's take our sternum a little bit the other way. You can take your head with you. See if that helps take the sternum in that direction. And then take that arm in the direction you were going and go behind yourself with that same sensation that your sternum is twisting around, making your ribs twist around. And alternate. Once go one side, feeling the sit bones move, the knee, the foot, and then the other way. And then reach down and scratch an ankle and see if it's gotten any easier to scratch your ankle. If it becomes clear that in order to lower that shoulder down, you have to lift the other one up a little bit. Okay. Stand up and walk around a little. See what this lesson has done to your walking. Notice how your arms swing. And try bending your elbows as you walk and deliberately bringing your arms as if you're punching up toward your shoulder, toward your opposite shoulder. See if you can find how that fits in with walking. I don't know if any of you race walk. This lesson is a great one for race walking, for when you're trying, think about you're trying to get somewhere quickly. You know, the bathroom's on the other side of the mall, and you got to get across the mall to the bathroom. And this swinging motion up above will allow a little faster progression. All right, and then come on back, and I'd love to open this up for discussion, both for any observations, comments about the lesson today, things that you'd like to have me cover in the next week or two.
Irene?
Yes, and
I noticed the asymmetry in the neck, in the sides of the neck when we were doing the switching, the twisting of the sides. So I wonder if you can focus in the next lessons on lessons that are focusing on the neck and the neck muscles, the shoulder.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else notice that their neck behaves differently on the two sides? Yeah. Okay. That is a good follow-up for this one. Rich.
Oh. I was working on getting it so I could talk.
Yeah.
Short on words.
We had you pinned, so it was hard to get back.
Ah, got it.
There we go. Now we're everybody.
That was good for my sore neck to do those twists.
The periscope thing. Yes, the more you get your head going with the periscope, the happier the neck's going to be. It's when we forget that our neck moves and we try to move the body independently, the neck gets really cranky. Yeah. And this lesson also does good work at getting this middle part of us twisting, and that's where you're supporting your head from rather than those upper muscles. Okay.
Yeah.
Barbara. Oops, yeah, unmute. And right, whose phone is it?
Call from North.
Now I'm on, right?
Okay, now Barbara, yeah.
But anything to stretch the legs, the backs of the legs?
Okay. Did you find that in this lesson, the backs of your legs were a limiter?
Were what?
Did they limit the movement?
No, I didn't feel them affected by this lesson. I just listened, but I would just like to get some alternative or some ideas about stretching that and the kind of the upper ankle area. But,
Okay.
great, thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else have tight hamstrings, tight legs, like you feel it's hard to pick things up off the floor? I bet there's a connection between what we do with our neck and what's happening in the hamstrings. I'll see if I can come up with a lesson that combines those. And if not, I'll do them sequentially. Any other things that are bugging you that you'd like to have a little easier?
I don't know if it relates to the neck, but I feel on the same side of the tight neck, I feel the plantar fascia, the bottom of the feet is very, very stretched and stiff.
Anybody else have the bottom of one foot either sore or stiff? Is that often goes with the tight hamstrings. So we will I will include that when we're talking about it. Yeah. Other,
I have a lot of neuropathy in my feet. Can't feel them very much.
if I remember, there are quite a few of you who have neuropathy in the feet. Yeah. And that's such a challenge because the feet are our main proprioceptive organs for balance. And so when you can't feel, it's hard. So what we have to do is make the most of the nerve channels that are still there in the feet. And I will make sure that I include that in these hamstring and plantar fascia lessons. Yeah. I find with neuropathy, it's definitely an ongoing, like you'll feel like your feet are woken up after a lesson, and then within a day they go back to their sensation, and you have to do something to wake them up again. Okay. Well, then I'm going to start a Facebook group this week for those who do want to participate with that. So watch for it. Now I noticed that there weren't movies put in the chat. If you have a movie idea, go ahead and put it in the chat, and then I'll copy it and I can send it out to everybody. I'm just putting the ones our group talked about. But if you just want to call out the name, I can type it in there and then organize it for putting.
Rating movies with the best ending?
Say it again, movies with the best ending? Or is that the name of the movie?
No, I have my private stash of movies with the best ending.
Oh, that would be great to get. If you could email me that list, then I can get it to everybody.
Okay, uplifting movies.
Yeah, I definitely like the movies that leave me feeling optimistic and hopeful about the world, instead of like ones like The English Patient that just make you feel like, oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end.
Oh, no. One is Love Actually. Have you seen it?
Great movie.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Love Actually. And another one, Places in the Heart. If you want the most uplifting last 10 seconds of any movie, see that one. That's it's a beautifully cast movie with a great
It's like those old Seattle movies. At the end of the love story.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
That was with Louis Armstrong singing the end.
That's right. What was that one? About Time. That's a fun one,
Oh yeah, that's good too.
where he can, it's a little bit of time traveler and a love story. That's a good one.
All right. If you have more ideas, bring them next week.
That'll
And
get us started.
or Thursday. Say it again.
It'll get us started.
That ought to keep us busy. So if you're interested in these, go into the chat. You can copy them out. I'll copy them and put them in again next week.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you on Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.